Hi guys, my name's Seb Shooter. I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today, this has already gone viral, this thing, but I wanted to talk about it because there are a few things that, in talking to family and friends about it, are things that only I seem to be picking up on. So I wanted to pitch it out to you guys to see what your thoughts were. And that is the new advances that Google are making with their Google Assistant through the system that they have called Google Duplex, which, if you haven't seen it, I'll link the presentation video down below, and I suggest you go take a look at that first to get what I'm talking about. But ultimately, to kind of sum it up, it's that now the Google Assistant app, which, by the way, the night that the video came out, I found, even though I didn't have it on my phone before, I found it had been installed. So sure, thanks Google, I guess. We'll have to see how that works out. But ultimately, they will be bringing in the Google Assistant app this functionality for the Google Assistant to make phone calls on your behalf, to make bookings and appointments and stuff like that for you. The thing that stands out to me, and that they wanted to, well, the thing that they wanted to show off to everybody, was that it sounds more natural. The assistant isn't some robot. It makes conversation, and it seems to understand some more of the nuances of conversation. Now, Google, of all people, have been working on things like text-to-speech and voice pattern recognition stuff for a long time. And so now that they're putting all of this stuff together, yeah, it's not too surprising. Now, to me, in listening to the two videos that they show, they showed two videos. First one was a booking at a hair salon, where the conversation went fine because you had the app, and then you had the person taking the call, both speaking very straightforward English. There were no misunderstandings and stuff like that. I personally could still hear the odd inflections in. I mean, I'm used to listening to people, so maybe that's where I'm seeing this. But I could still hear the odd inflections in parts of the assistant's speech. And then on top of that, though, I could also note where one thing that got a laugh was when the person on the other end from the hair salon said, "Just give me a moment, I'll see what we've got," and the app responded responded by going, "Mm-hmm, that mm-hmm," and other things, other kind of ums and ahs and things like that throughout the dialogue, aren't just there to make people think that they're human, to gain people on board. Those are there for the same reason that they're there in our speech. They allow processing time. And as a result, yeah, I can go, okay, they are taking what we do, because we and ah when we need more time to think. You know, someone who's umming and ahhing through an explanation of something that's very simple, especially if you're asking them a question, may very well either have a shit memory or be lying to you simply because they are stalling. They are looking for more information to make more time rather to make up the information in their head before they present it to you. Like that, for instance, where I'm changing topic in my head, I'm bringing up the different information, I've finished an example, and so then I needed some space, and the way I generated that space wasn't just sitting in silence. I made a noise so that you guys knew that I was still talking, or that I was still engaged in the conversation with you guys, even though I'm sat in a room by myself. And that's what the Google Assistant is now doing. It's adding in those sounds. Now, the second call that they showcased was one where you had a seemingly non-native English speaker on one end of the phone and the app on the other. And so there were a few misunderstandings, miscommunications, and other bits and pieces, but the message still got across, apparently. And so as a result, it was even more obvious that there were ums and ers where it was trying to work itself out, and then there were other areas in there where the inflections did change a lot more than they had with the prior call. So again, in that situation, it seemed to me it still stood out as not being a real person. Didn't seem to the person on the other end of the phone, though. And now this is where I'm in two minds. Because then the next thing that was talked about in the presentation was that the phone calls that happen seem to be attached to a cloud, so that when the phone calls are made and inquiries are made about a certain time, when the information that the app gathers will then be changed on Google, or will then be held in some way. Now, here's where my thinking goes. Positively, we've got this new technology that sounds really cool. It sounds like it would save you a lot of time, and it even sounds like it would be really useful to small businesses like myself, where you have an app that would call me to make an appointment on behalf of someone else who is busy, and so that it all gets kind of ironed out through a system rather than taking time out of other people's day. And as a result, it makes it easier for me, because then those people are more inclined, due to the lack of effort that they need to put into it, to actually bring me in at the very least for a first session to have a chat and see if we can work together, see if they would make use of my services. And so as a result, yeah, there are positive sides to this. The idea of kind of virtual assistants and AI assistants of some sort are great to me. You know, they will no doubt save us an awful lot of time and energy in the future as we progress. However, this is where, especially considering some of the stuff that we have seen recently with Facebook and all of this stuff that I particularly have spoken on in regards to Cambridge Analytica and AIQ and all of that stuff, where it's information is now one of the most important things in the world, one of the most pricey commodities, that no one talks about trading as well, I'd point out. And so with that in mind, this concerns me, because, you know, me or other young people that may be expecting to hear a robot on the other end, or can pick out the inflections, pick out the odd inconsistencies in the way that it speaks, you know, those we might be okay with this. Yeah, because we'll know who we're talking to on the other end, and we'll know that it's a system that's linked to the cloud possibly, and any information that we give to it, we're giving it voluntarily. Same way that we would to anyone else we were talking to on the phone. But there's a difference. People, once it goes to one person, yeah, they might spread a rumour, they might say something that we didn't want them to do, but their reach is limited. You talk to another person, or that isn't actually a person and is a system that is already linked to the entire rest of the world. That means that there is one step from you to give all of your information to the rest of the entire world. That isn't on. There are older people, especially certain narcissistic older people that I know and that I can bring to mind, who love talking to people on the phone. They love the sound of their own voice. And they love to tell their life story to anyone that will listen to it for whatever reason. As said, usually narcissistic reasons, to one degree or another. And I'm not talking about old people just wanting to tell their stories and have a nice conversation about things. I'm talking about people who methodically introduce how they are so much better than everyone else through their life experiences through a phone call. People who are doing it to impose on others. Those are some of the kind of people that I know, right? And I'm sure everyone else does as well. But these people that I'm bringing to mind in my head are older. They probably wouldn't understand the tech in full that was being used. They probably wouldn't grasp that this wasn't a person on the other end of the phone. And so they would talk, and they would talk, and they would talk. And even if the AI was trying to maybe shift it back in a direction that the AI wanted, so that it could get the information that it needed, make the appointment that it needed, whatever else, that information could all still go somewhere. Like we've seen all of this information tracking and gathering from various apps and from various places anyway in regards to online usage and online bits and pieces. And so, you know, one person who's unaware of what this AI, well, semi-AI, this virtual assistant thing is, divulging everything into the phone, and whilst it doesn't do anything for the person whose phone has actually made the call, because it's linked to a cloud, all of that information still goes somewhere, all of that information still gets tracked, quantified, worked with, just because this person was maybe unaware, and so on and so forth. If at the beginning of each call because in the presentation it was just the assistant called and said, "Hi, I'm looking to make an appointment on behalf of." It's like, no, 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 no. It needs to announce, in my view, to avoid the issues around what the what information it's looking for, what it's looking to do, and all that kind of thing. It needs to announce that it is a Google Assistant app, Google Assistant whatever, making that communication with that other person, with that business. Because otherwise, oh man, I can see this being abused quickly. I can see things going out of control very fast on this, and it could almost be a loophole in certain forms of data protection. But again, the thing is that if you're talking kind of voluntarily to someone on the other end of a phone, even if that someone is a virtual assistant, it's still a case of going, you volunteered that information to that individual, that entity. And so it's not a case of, they now need to potentially protect the data out the other end. So, Google's kind of data banks of one sort or another, their servers and things would need to be secure, sure. They need to be secure anyway. So it's a case of going, right, well, they need to be secure, they need to be locked down. Okay, well, they're all compliant, that's fine. But then that person has still volunteered all of that information to that virtual assistant that has then been grabbed and taken by Google. And this might be a little much for what we're looking at right now, but it's what I took away from that last part of the presentation where he's going, oh, well, look, Memorial Day weekend, your business hours are going to change, and all we need to do is make one call, or the assistant just needs to make one call, and then that information is just uploaded to Google and corrected on Google for everybody. For small businesses and things, could this be really useful? Absolutely. That's very, very quick and efficient updating of information online about our business through Google. Great. At the same time, though, could this be particularly detrimental to certain businesses and certain people due to the way that they interact with customers, due to the way that certain information might be discussed with a virtual assistant without realizing it's a virtual assistant? People's bank details, people's financial information, the specifics of what appointments are about, all of those sorts of things, all of which goes through a virtual assistant that is also connected to Google at large, potentially allowing them to collect so much more additional data of all kinds of weird and otherwise inaccessible sorts. It seems just a bit too much, and the way that I think it would be a really easy way of getting around it by just having the AI announce, or the VI announce that it's a virtual intelligence, a virtual assistant at the beginning of the call, so that people are aware of who and what they're talking to. Otherwise, as said, positive. There are lots of positives in this, but this one big negative, especially considering stuff that we have seen recently in terms of data going awry from certain groups and certain companies, that has then been used in ways that it really shouldn't have been. It worries me that this is suddenly just a tool that can be used in that way at large, and it's concerning. Like, I hope that Google doesn't do this. Google's tech side seems to have been at least somewhat reasonable and pretty good with some of the stuff that they've done. Like, after I got an Android phone, I've not gone back because of the way that it works, and I like the way that the tech kind of functions with it, and so on and so forth. Could this go horribly wrong? Absolutely. Do I want it to? Not really. Could I? And yet it's this, especially considering everything we've seen lately, it's this thing that sat in my head going, this could go horribly, horribly wrong. So it's interesting to think on, and especially considering this seems to be something that's going to be happening soon. I mean, it's said at the end of the presentation that experiments with calling and correcting information for small businesses and businesses generally online through the virtual assistant are going to be experiments going forward over the next few months. You know, this is a sudden leap forward potentially. Again, it could be complete bollocks. You know, we saw all kinds of demonstrations of things like Siri and Alexa and whatever else that then just haven't quite lived up to the products that we now have access to. So this could all be kind of quite extreme. But if that's the case though, and the product isn't as good as it seems, but then it still has access to call us, record our information, throw it up online to a cloud, potentially that's even worse, because that might mean that the AI or the virtual assistant with the systems behind it are just not complex enough to handle that information in a safe and reasonable way either. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to watch. I personally am probably not going to use the assistant. I much prefer at the moment, like, I've never used any of these assistant pieces of software, these apps, just because when it comes to calling people, when it comes to handling people and my own affairs, I tend to want to do it myself. I tend to like engaging with people and being able to directly, like, this person with their face and this voice are the person that I'm dealing with, and so I can hold them accountable. I can hold them to whatever it is that's been said and done in regards to me. Now that's just me. Would a proper virtual assistant be particularly useful in the future that was conversive? Yes, more than likely. Am I sold on this being the product that will provide all of the, you know, what I would want? Hell no. Purely because Google has not just gone, here is an app that will handle your stuff for you. They have gone, here is an app that will handle your stuff for you and make our lives easier. And that's where I'm a bit iffy. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear what you're thinking of this, because this video went trending. As said, it's down in the description there. If you haven't seen it, you know, it's interesting to watch, to say the least. But, you know, are you looking forward to it? Would you be a person that would use it? Are you skeptical and worried because of the potential information gathering side of things, or do you just think that this is pointless and it's not something we need? You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this tool interesting or enjoyable, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care.